Tender romance.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 30th of June, 2018. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
You know what's the best time for a podcast? In the middle of a heat wave.
And Robert Kemp.
I mean, the best time for a podcast is on time.
What about this is not on time?
What?
We're all in the same room. That's about as on time as it gets for us.
Exactly. Heat waves be damned.
I mean...
Well, also it's night time now, so
yeah.
We're kind of avoiding the heat wave.
It's the cool of the evening. Do. Yeah. Rob's got himself a beer.
I have. San Miguel.
Yes, we're all like fooded and beveraged, which is probably going to make this a well-energetic podcast.
Well-energetic.
I've got myself instant coffee in a Nescafe mug, but it's not Nescafe, so damn them.
Dow
Egberts or some bullshit like that.
You thought this was Nescafe. What you're doing is you're improving the Nescafe name by drinking a superior instant coffee, but advertising it as Nescafe. That's what you're doing.
Probably is better. I haven't had Nescafe for a while, so can't necessarily compare.
It's a good point, because I go out of my way to avoid it.
And yet, you have a branded mug in your kitchen, which I now drink off, which is a decent mug. It's like nice and thick, it's bright red.
Where did that come from? Does that come from you, Zach?
No.
Or was it one of your...
Why would I have a Nescafe mug? I never drink coffee.
It's true. But you like big mugs.
That's not even a big mug, that's a tiny mug.
It's not a tiny mug.
It's like a regular size mug.
It's bigger than most of my mugs.
It's a decent sized mug, yeah. I would say.
It's not like a massive cocoa mug or anything like that, but it's pretty chunky.
I'd say it's regular size. I wouldn't actually say that's any bigger than a normal sized mug.
I don't know.
That's practically the same.
This is what I would... Right, I'm going off mic for a second. So yeah, this is a Banksy mug that I would consider normal size, and it is notably
say that
smaller.
Banksy mug is smaller than average.
Is this like official Banksy merchandise?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, so we actually make some money out of this. That's weird.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like, is it official? Thinking about it, but
it's got a signature on it.
Yeah.
Did he steal his own artwork?
It's a good question. I suppose he's probably kept the stencils, right, of anything he's sprayed.
So but you don't know, though, do you? Because no one knows.
No, exactly. That's the question at the moment.
At the moment? It's past like 15 years.
Well, at the moment, especially since there's that thing where some guy stole the thing out of an art museum. And it's like, was it actually Banksy all along? Did he steal his own art out of a museum just because he could? Because that's the kind of thing that he do.
That he would do, yeah.
In fairness, that is the best get out of any crime ever. It's like, oh, we didn't think to chase the thief because we thought the thief was the artist himself.
Well, I'm not sure that's why they didn't chase him. I did annoyingly see, because YouTube recommendations continue to be shit as always. did see YouTube in my recommended was like, the high-vis jacket experiment. We put on high-vis jackets and just walk into places and no one cares because we look like builders or whatever.
I bet that doesn't work at Greg's. Because I think, Greg's gets a lot of builder types.
Yeah, but it's not walking into the shop of Greg's, it'd be walking into the back of Greg's.
Or just knocking on the back door and being like, works.
Yeah, exactly.
Just what would you say? Like, what would be your excuse at Greg's?
Well, I think the idea is like the bigger the place, the better it would work. You need to be like in some place where not everyone on site knows what the fuck's going on any given day.
And then you just wear high vis and walk in.
Yeah, and then you're just like, yeah, well, we're going to do that thing. We're on the job.
How well was it working?
I didn't watch that video because I'm not that stupid.
Yeah, fair enough.
What, you mean, unless the video itself is a honeypot, you mean? Like, if you've watched this video, you've been marked.
Yeah, it's like that was the actual high-vis experiment to see if people would watch this video about it.
You're now on some kind of watch list and will be forever marked for, like, possible terrorists.
I mean, I'm still vaguely annoyed every time I see a video that just, like, at the end of the video title in brackets just says not clickbait. Because it's like, if your title is so much clickbait that you've had to put at the end, not clickbait, that means it's clickbait. It's like, you can't just say it's not and then have that overrule the fact that it is.
Yeah, surely that phrase on its own is clickbait.
Yep.
Absolutely is. It's funny you're seeing videos like that. I mean, the greatest minds of like the kind of AI machine learning world are going to the highest paid company, Google, the biggest company, Google, and the main thing they're working on is trying to figure out what videos to show you next.
Yeah, exactly.
And they still give you that shit.
Well, not very much though. That's like that's probably on the higher level, like just the YouTube trending or whatever. It's not like aimed at me as much.
Aimed at you.
I suppose if it's if the not clickbait phrase is a relatively new thing,
it's not that new.
Like
a year.
Okay, but
brackets not clickbait.
Yeah, but I bet me was wondering if you've never.
I've never clicked on the clickbait.
Well, yeah, or would have associated that as clickbait or categorized it as a clickbaity word. Therefore, Zach never watches videos that associate with a clickbaity style phrasing. However, it discerns that.
I think I may finally have started training YouTube not to show me any Fortnite videos after all this time, because I finally realised that you can click on each individual. There's a drop down menu where you can individually say not interested to that specific video.
I'm not interested.
So I was like, I can just clear out all the Fortnite ones, and now they're starting to appear less. And I'm like, sweet, this is actually working.
Oh, I've never noticed that. That would actually be really useful.
Cool. See less of this.
Yeah. Because you can delete the whole channel if it's recommending a channel,
right?
And I was using that as well.
But you can do per video.
But now you can do them individually on each video, so that helps with the trending feed or whatever.
Yeah, because it takes a while for your recommended list to cycle round if you're not watching anything in it.
Yeah, so you can just clear it out and have it repopulate. I guess it's kind of helpful. And I've also, a couple of times recently been like, I can get rid of this dumb ad, which is completely irrelevant.
Oh, really? They've put their, like they have in Gmail, and you can dismiss ads, and it goes, we'll try not to show you ads like this.
Yeah.
Where's that option? Is it like a...
It's a very difficult option to find. It used to be a lot easier when there was just the big old report button on the bottom of ads, but now it's just it's inside, there's a tiny, the little eye button on the ad, but not the top corner eye, it's a different eye. And then you can report the ad in there.
Well, it's not like I don't want to... report strikes me as...
this is
flagging it as inappropriate.
Well, it's got three options, which is inappropriate, irrelevant, or repetitive. Which I think the third one is maybe that's a bit too.
Yeah.
Any advert on YouTube is pretty much repetitive by default.
And what if you're seeing it every other video or something?
Maybe
like that?
I don't know what that's even meant to be for.
Or what if the ad is what? Is it what if it's one of those ads that's been designed for YouTube where it has that 5-second clip at the start and then plays the ad again?
Don't think that counts.
Well, it's a little bit repetitive by nature then.
Most of those ones don't actually repeat themselves though. Most of them are just here's a 5-second setup to the advert we're about to show you just to try and make you stay.
Sometimes.
No matter how much effort they put into figuring out what's the perfect ad or product that you'll be interested in for this particular time and this particular video, the problem is that adverts are all made by advertising agencies and they're all rubbish.
Vast majority of them are guff, yeah.
That's a shame. Do you guys ever actually click on clickbait even though you know it's clickbait? I probably shouldn't click that because that's clearly clickbait, and it's just this once.
Yeah,
see how shit this is.
I mean, I don't think I've ever clicked on ones that are in the sort of bottom bar where they're clearly sponsored or from external sources or Outbrain.
No.
Well, I do the thing on Google where I won't click the top result if it's sponsored, even if it's the one I wanted. I'll scroll down to...
Yeah, I do. Most of the time it doesn't actually fulfill most of my search terms.
No, it doesn't.
So it's just ignore.
Yeah.
But then when you do actually search for something specifically, the top link tends... if it is dead on what you're searching for, that tends not to be a sponsored one for some reason. Google don't bother marking that as an ad at that point because you've searched for it directly.
Right. Yeah.
I think it does I suppose it's to try and stop people just searching for the thing you want directly and just gaining ad revenue that way, or paying or causing people to pay for it. I don't know. It would make sense, I guess, for it not to just show that immediately.
YouTube. And Google's.
Oh, always a fun topic.
Yes.
A confusing nightmare.
Yep, a big mess.
Well, as I was experiencing today, where it just wasn't accepting one of my higher quality videos for some reason, and was quite happy to accept a lesser quality
It's
one.
so hard to find the actual, like, the one time when I actually found, like, the YouTube guidelines for what quality settings and stuff it likes. I was like, I found it once, and then I basically put those settings into my video exporting thing, so that every time I did it, I just used those same settings. But then when I changed them accidentally and needed to look it up again, I was like, where the fuck was that? Because it's really not easy to find, considering you'd think that would be quite important information for uploading to a YouTube channel.
You'd think it'd be a standard setting in every export software, like click the YouTube button. Yeah.
Well, I found they've actually got, so the software I use does have some, but they're quite outdated.
Yeah.
Right,
So for like old like SD formats and things like that, and so I've had to tinker with them to get them to a point where YouTube accepts them fairly, like, pretty regularly. This was the first time I had real problems with it, where it just wasn't didn't like a bit rate past a certain point.
Well, or at least that appeared to be what the problem was.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell.
Exactly, don't really know. No, so I follow its other. Like, I did once find like quite a detailed article on, you should set your keyframe settings to be this. Like, once every 2 seconds is recommended apparently. So, although I tend to run it for our 60 frames videos once every 1 second because I didn't change the number when we swapped from 30 to 60. And it seems quite happy with that. Sometimes like I had some problems I think with profile. Have you ever messed around with H.264 profiles and that old nightmare?
Yeah, try not to.
Yeah.
Like, leave it as a default and hope that's good.
Or push it higher if there's a problem. You've got the profiles and you've got the levels as well. And like, is it main profile? Is it high profile? Or is it level 5.0? Or
you got love when whoever decided to name those things like main and high. It's just like, that's very unhelpful.
Yeah, I don't know what they mean really.
No.
And I've worked in video, like, as a job before. I still don't understand it. They don't make it easy. But anyway, aren't they, like, isn't there about to be, like, another sort of wave of brand new formats coming along anyway? Like,
yeah, there's some new compression codecs from Google again.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of pushing it because of YouTube, I guess.
Makes sense. But yeah, there's a whole new standard supposedly coming that they're getting sued about as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because they apparently are trying to patent the technology as something that someone else has already invented and has chosen to put out in public domain. Because he said, this is, everyone's free to use this. And then Google go, we'll use it and patent it. Idiots.
Yeah, who's not getting sued? News.
Oh, yeah. News! The one bit of news we have, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who's not getting sued?
PUBG dropped their lawsuit against Epic.
Epic are not getting sued. Suddenly.
What did they claim that they had copied? Battle Royale?
The whole thing.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I mean, yes,
but it was all kinds of weird stuff, wasn't it? They were claiming like certain weapon styles and bits of UI and which is odd. Like,
yeah, just like it wasn't the same specific stuff as when they sued the mobile rip-offs. That was much more specific, whereas like you can't say winner chicken dinner because that's our thing. Except is it and whatever.
Yeah, is it?
No.
Did they trademark it? No, they didn't.
But still, at least that was like those were fairly more obvious rip-offs, whereas the Fortnite PUBG situation was a bit different. But apparently, no, they didn't care enough. Or the lawyers determined that it probably wasn't worth even trying.
Yeah.
Which is much more likely.
I mean, it sounds like PUBG aren't happy with Epic because of what they pulled with Fortnite.
Whatever it was that they pulled.
Yeah, well, going after Battle Royale after working with one of their partners to make a Battle Royale game could be seen as a bit of a dick move.
Well, I mean, a dick move, yes, but that's what we were theorising about, whether that was part of why they were sued.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be the motivation, right? Has to be. Regardless of what they actually were able to file suit for. And it's worth mentioning, I think, wasn't this sort of like a Korean case only?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of different copyright laws.
Yeah.
I actually saw.
So none of this would probably have flown in like US or UK law anyway, or
well, maybe. But I saw some analysis about why it was the Korean law, because it's to do with some specific wording in like Korean copyright. They put a much higher value on owning creative works, but like on a more personal level than the company level. Like when even like the copyright is sort of, I don't know how to describe it exactly. It's more like if it's in your family kind of thing. They favour the first person maybe slightly more. Player
Unknown might have.
Yeah, because he's a person. He might have had a better chance of saying, this was my thing that I created as a person. It's my family business, or whatever.
I see. It's not all that corporate, really, because it came from me.
It's not just pure legal. It has some elements of the human condition in the Korean courts, supposedly.
Interesting.
But apparently not enough. Lawyers said no.
So they dropped it.
Yep. As usual, as soon as there's an interesting court case, you get excited for it because you like, holy shit, something might actually happen, and then it doesn't.
I don't know if this was all that exciting, really. It's like,
it was slightly exciting. There was a chance they might have actually had to fight about like if they stole secrets from each other or something.
I mean, what would have actually happened if I don't know. This doesn't strike me as interesting as the Oculus case, right? Where very clearly turns out there was probably some thievery going on, or possible crossover between
maybe.
Was it ZeniMax and Bethesda and id and then Facebook and Oculus, thanks to an unfortunate positioning of Mr. Carmack.
Yeah.
That seems way more likely. But like in this one, the only sort of weird thing I can see is like if this had gone bad for Fortnite and PUBG won it.
They wham it.
Would this have meant like cloning games would have suddenly have, or games that have very similar genres were in trouble? Like would it have meant like Call of Duty could sue EA if they decided to make another Medal of Honor game? Or...
I still feel like the PUBG thing has got to have been somewhere, some behind the scenes information that is not fully obvious about them working with Epic at the time.
Yeah,
there's got to have been something hinging on that they it's just hidden information to us. But
yeah, as far as we know, because that's not what it was filed against, was it? It was filed against specific points of design,
but maybe if it had gone to a court, then the arguments would have been about how they were working with them at the time, and they were like probably looked at a monitor with this on it.
not that should necessarily influence a case like that. Really, it's like if Samsung, the whole point of like the Samsung and Apple phone thing was that Samsung looked at Apple's design after it had come out and went, we like that, we'll have it. That Apple took umbrage with.
Well, I mean, when you get into the real specifics for video game case, I guess it's like you're actually starting to think about how much control do you have over models. Because code, I mean, if they took actual code, that's a more
of course
easily copyrightable thing, because it's just the straight code, which is why you've got Bethesda going after the Westworld game that's basically a rip-off of Fallout Shelter because it's made by the same company, and they probably have used the exact same code underneath, because Bethesda have discovered a bug in the Westworld game that had since been patched in the Fallout one. So they're like, wow. This is clearly just our code because we remember that bug.
I mean, that's shameless.
Yeah, that is right, and because it's the same company, way more believable.
Yeah,
but then that's almost certainly a thing.
But if it was like the PUBG had some Epic Games staff member was looking over the shoulder of a PUBG developer at a monitor which had their stuff on it, how much can you say that they stole out of that exactly? I don't know.
It's made it especially tricky because of the whole engine thing, right?
Yeah. Because presumably if they wanted more detailed engine help, they would have basically been giving them the game code essentially
Potentially, yeah.
to work with.
I mean, I highly doubt that there's like code reuse from PUBG in Fortnite. I doubt that that's a thing, just because of how far along Fortnite was before PUBG was a thing. Yeah. Unless it's netcode, maybe. But then Epic have been pretty good with their netcode stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Unless that's all built into, I can understand why. What they call Blue Core? What's the actual company behind? Blue Hole?
Yep.
Is that really it? Blue Hole?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I don't know why that just.
Who made like the settlers and stuff?
The Blue Byte.
Blue Byte. Blue Hole.
Blue Hole. Okay. I mean, it's probably likely that Blue Hole influenced some Epic engine choices that may have benefited Fortnite. And it's
guess maybe in like the 100-player elements,
exactly, and that might be a core reason why Fortnite was able to pivot to battle royale so fast, because it's like, oh hey, our netcode in the engine can now cope with this. Half the work's done, right?
Yeah.
So I can see why that would tick them off significantly, despite the whole stealing the whole genre from under their feet thing. But whether or not that's legal, because they were helping do stuff in their engine, that's kind of messy. And 2 Human has proved you don't want to go up against Epic, really.
But I mean, at least PUBG has more money to go up. The money comparative money levels are close together. Than the 2 Human version.
Sure, the backing behind PUBG is pretty enormous,
but not enough apparently. So we're never going to find out if any of this stuff actually happened.
Nope.
Who knows if anyone stole anything? Apparently, no one stole anything.
I'm sure, like someone like PlayerUnknown himself, like a decade from now, might actually.
Everyone always says this about these kind of court cases, where it's like one day maybe there'll be a book, and it's like no, there's not.
Oh no, there won't be a book. There might be an interview on it if someone still cares, or if the company is still popular. Maybe.
No, I don't think there will be. I don't think most of these things are ever going to even have an interview. Like
some things
Duke
come
Nukem
out.
Forever. I mean, that
Oh
barely,
boy, yeah, that really does need to happen.
that barely got anything, and it's still been how many years?
It's been a while now. Yeah. That would be fascinating, though. To get the full. Some of that has come
Some
out.
of it, yeah. Bits and pieces.
Is there actually any more news?
I don't think so.
It's very quiet.
I feel like there was probably some post E3 bits that we have forgotten that we didn't
sure.
already talk about.
Some corrections or something like that. Yeah. Cream's not in Team Rose. That kind of stuff.
There's been a Steam sale. That's sort of news,
it's still on.
I guess.
There was a thing about that ex Naughty Dog Uncharted a story lady producer Amy Hennig at EA, right? She was working on a Star Wars game, but it's been shelved, I think, or something, or she's leaving it or something.
That was the single player Star Wars game that EA said that no one wanted.
And they cancelled it effectively.
So then she left, basically.
And she was saying like, oh yeah, they were she didn't pushing it to be more open world or whatever, and against what they had planned, basically, which was presumably a bit more Uncharted-y, but you never know, do you?
No.
So basically, EA and Star Wars continue to screw everything up.
Yeah. Despite, whenever we talk about EA and Star Wars, I just have to think back to that press conference a couple of years ago where they were trying so hard to tell us it's like, this is a match made in heaven. We're going to do right by Star Wars. We're putting a lot of money behind it to produce very poor products.
I mean, yeah.
Well, saying Battlefront is a poor product might be a bit harsh, other than the loot box stuff, but...
Yeah. And I suppose there's always the one being developed that they just talked about, right?
Fallen Jedi.
Yeah.
Which is more of a Respawn gig than an EA gig.
Respawn
hopefully.
is what I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully. Because I don't think... Oh no, EA did buy Respawn eventually, didn't they?
Was that on the list of?
Maybe, I don't remember.
Because I think they were technically independent, but published by EA for the first 2 Titanfall games, and then they picked them up for this.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone liked the Titanfall 2 single-player campaign.
Yeah, Titanfall 2. Yeah, it's great. Very enjoyable. Possibly a little on the short side, maybe, but...
Well, that's to be forgiven, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just fine. I ended up making up for a lot of that by playing a hell of a ton of multiplayer.
Yes.
Still installed. I noticed the other day. I'd forgotten it was still installed on my PC.
Even with your obsession about space.
Yeah.
You didn't get rid of that because I'm sure it's gigantic.
I keep thinking I'll go back to it because they were still updating it last time I looked. And they just added their equivalent of a horde mod, which was in the first game, but they'd come back to it, and I didn't actually play it. Ended up playing some more just standard multiplayer. Still at that point in time, still pretty active, actually. Still people playing it.
Why isn't there more salmon run stuff, like in the Octo expansion or whatever?
That is the question.
I mean, there is a lot of it, or there was a period where there was a lot of it, more
I don't know if you call it a lot. It's like 3 levels that they added over a period of probably more than 3 months.
Oh, you mean more of Salmon Run in Splatoon?
Yeah.
Specifically, okay, that I totally agree with. There should be way more of that. Because was it 4 levels now? 3?
Are you getting the Octo?
I don't remember whether it's 4 or 5.
I think it's only 4. It's definitely not 5.
Is it not? Are you sure?
Because it's launched with
2.
A 3rd was added soon after, and then the smoke yards.
You got the one with the walkways, the smoke yards, and the one with the building.
There's definitely the one with the boat as well.
No, that's the launch one.
All right, so there's 4.
Maybe 4.
I definitely don't think
maybe
it's
4,
5.
maybe 5.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Even so, that's quite a slim number of levels, and it's not like they've been adding new salmon mechanics to it.
Well, I don't know if they wouldn't necessarily need new enemy mechanics as much as new wave mechanics, maybe. You could still keep the same bosses and stuff, but maybe somehow make the waves more directional or laned or something for specific waves. You could do something mechanically like that, possibly, to mix it up.
Salmon Run MOBA.
I've just remembered another stupid bit of news from a while back. Did you hear that Super Monday Night Combat shut down because of GDPR?
Yes, I did. Because we talked about Loadout about a month ago having this problem. Turns out I can't even remember. They were not Sumo Digital. They were like Sumo Interactive or something.
Yes, one of those other confusing names.
Yeah. They had to shut down because the game was Super Monday Night Combat specifically. That was no longer making enough money to justify putting the development work into
to patch it for GDPR.
Yeah, so they killed it. So that's at least the second known casualty thanks to that regulation. There's probably tons, right? That they just either just leave the servers up or if they're peer-to-peer games, I guess that's less of an issue, maybe, but I wonder how many old servers have just been killed as a result of it that we just don't hear about. But
well, I don't know. It depends how long, how much advance warning has there been, because old games shut down quite regularly, so there could have been some that were just due to be shut down anyway.
I guess it only applies to ones where you log into a central account.
Yeah.
If you're running anything that was old school server based, then you're probably still fine.
Probably.
Like the old Battlefields, maybe? Like the old Battlefields. I'm just thinking games like Battlefield 3, some of the big ones, right, that might have been designed not GDPR compliant.
Well, I wonder if those, because I was also thinking about Team Fortress and stuff, where it's just do those kind of games just fall under the Steam and Origin architecture, overarching thing, because they use that system?
Oh, a bit like how old Xbox Live or Microsoft used to sell Xbox Live as a sort of hey, you don't build it yourself, we've got all our stuff to deal with that. True skill.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't said true skill in a long time.
Because Team Fortress and Counter-Strike and all those, they technically all use the same server browser underneath the Valve one.
Yeah, I guess. That era. Yeah. Well, until they started obfuscating it.
Yeah, I mean, it is still technically the same thing, it's just now it's hidden behind
UI.
fancy UI.
Yeah. And maybe the matchmaking system gets rid of some of that as well, I suppose.
Yeah. So maybe that's why those kind of ones, and presumably the same thing in Origin, they would have had some mechanism that they used for all of those more recent games, for Battlefields and Titanfalls and all of those.
Maybe
not Titanfall, I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, you might argue that a lot of online games, maybe they... Yeah, if they're still running on a common platform at EA, for instance,
yeah,
maybe they just update the common platform and everything's fine. But they'd have to patch the games? Sure, I have no idea. I don't really know what, in games is that GDPR non-compliant, to be honest. Other than maybe the marketing opt-in question. I mean, you're never really asked, are you? Do you want to opt into marketing? It's just sort of always implied.
I mean, I guess...
Which I guess is illegal now.
What in Loadout and Super Mario Kart Combat would have been the thing that would have been the data.
I don't remember ever being sent an email about Monday Night Combat. Or Super Monday Night Combat.
Well, not Monday Night Combat. Super Monday Night. It's like, what...
So I did create a Super account and toyed with it for a while.
But... Yeah, so you created an account, but, is it just the login information? Is it... So it can send you password recovery like that?
I mean, I don't think the regulations cover any of that, though.
No.
It's I mean, unless they were really worried about, okay, what if we got 1 billion right to delete requests? Because I've talked about this with some of my mates before, how the whole right to delete, right, could actually be a real, or right to access data, could be the new form of DDoS, right? Well, if you just get 1,000 people to suddenly send in a right for information request on the same day, and it's like, oh god, we've got 30 days and we have to comply with this stuff, but it's a real pain in the ass. Oh, and they've requested it to be posted to them. And it's suddenly you could actually DDoS a company from doing anything because they suddenly have to pull all their manpower, if they're a small business, into dealing with this bloody request. Comedy idea.
Can't really. I mean, maybe when you're in a small business, maybe the amount of data is so small you can actually just be database print every file, and it just prints out one single stack of A4, and then you're just okay, let's just shove that in envelopes.
Guess it's still
some effort, but not
quite a lot
totally insurmountable. Yeah. Probably more of a monetary problem than a time effort problem, I guess.
I don't know. I think the time effort would be significant.
Just regardless. One guy.
Well, you get a temp.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just we need
someone to print this database off and put it in envelopes for 30 days.
Yeah. Man, what a sucky job that would be. I'm sure someone will do it happily. It's the best job ever. I love the taste of envelopes.
I don't think you've been physically licking them. That would be hazard pay.
Bah. Got such a dry tongue. You're fired.
You only last as long as your tongue does.
Yeah.
Then you're out.
Next temp.
I don't know why that reminded me, but Noam and I this is completely unrelated.
Okay, good. Kind of glad.
But Noam and I were watching it was the end of a World Cup match, and they were doing one of the crappy interviews. The player.
Okay.
But the guy asking the question said something really strange to one of, I can't remember what game it was we were watching, but it was they said
Get in the bucket.
Yeah, something like that. He said now you've got this one in the bucket. What's next? And it's just I sort of sit there go, hang on a minute.
It's a Robism.
I mean, it's yeah, but it's quite good. It got me thinking about what if you changed took a common phrase and just changed one of the words to a simile. All of a sudden, things start sounding really wrong.
What you do all the time.
Well, you kind of, yeah. But it was if someone goes back in the net, change it to back of the sack. Just
back of the sack.
Or instead of get in, you say come in.
Right.
It's just.
don't know if it works for back of the net, because the net is actually a specific thing.
Back of the bag.
Like rear of the net.
Yeah.
Yeah, rear of the net.
Rear of the net.
Far side of the net. I don't know. I just thought it was something to ponder.
No, I don't think you need to ponder that, because that's just what naturally happens in your brain. So you don't need to influence that any more than it already does.
Well, it's in like an eggcorn type thing, isn't it?
I'll just put that one in the Slack repository.
News.
Yeah,
What's
well,
the news? It's time for what you've been playing.
Yes.
What you've been playing. I know they can't tell.
There was
I'm
a dramatic
looking
pause
at.
there because Dad was looking, and I was waiting to see whether he was going to point that out.
I deliberately was like, now because I'm in the same room, I don't have to specify who. I can just say, turn to the person and say, what are you playing? And when they start speaking, it'll be obvious to you, listener, who it was that I asked.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
Who's looking at me?
He is now.
I haven't gone first for some time.
And apparently Rob is not prepared to go first.
I'm contemplating in what order to tackle this. Because I haven't got a huge amount to talk about this time.
So you need to order them, apparently.
Well, I went back to State of Decay.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, was not able to just leave that game alone, despite having finished a playthrough. I kind of wanted to see where more of the foothills map took me, and if any of that was much different. Turns out, no. Of course not. Like, I think I was expecting this playthrough to play out a little differently for some reason. Like, because I've heard people talking about, oh, you know, you're never quite in that comfort zone, and like things, everyone's game is a little bit different. And okay, so sure enough, there I'm getting some different ambient missions turn up. Like one of my community seems obsessed with that eagle eye sniper fellow who apparently lived in the area, so we're hunting all his old gear. Because he'll have just left it lying around. Open world games. So that's a little odd. So I'm following that mission. And I've got a guy this time who, in my community, who is a bastard, basically. It just marks one of his character traits as belligerent, minus morale to everyone. And it's like, great. Do I want him around? Oh, he's got the computer skill. Well, that means I could update my radio room to a higher level than I was capable of in the last playthrough. Maybe I'll keep him around just in case I want to do that and get loads of outposts. But then, of course, I'm getting ahead of myself because I don't have the influence to actually buy the outposts I want yet. So it's going to take several tens of hours, probably more, to get to the point where that's a thing. So yeah, for some reason, I find myself still going back to that loop of going into houses and rummaging for stuff, and I don't really know why at this point. It's like I've seen
a rummaging simulator.
Yeah, I've seen all there is to see, I think. Other than I've never seen that third map, like, ever.
Yes.
But I think maybe I'm just achievement hunting again.
Well, sure.
But those achievements are going to be evil to get because they're like complete a playthrough now with all the leader types. And it's like, well, I'm not really going to justify spending another 75 hours on this, probably.
How late could you set that up? Like, because you don't pick the leader thing until some levels through, right?
So you've got to, you've got to have ranked up your standing with certain community members to the hero point. And then you get to a certain phase where I think so many days in where your community starts talking about, oh, someone should be leading this. And then the leader slot unlocks.
It's like,
but then you've got to make sure you have a community member of the right traits to go down the right path that you want. And so I've had Kearney, who was my leader from the last community, got to potential leader status really quickly this time.
Right.
And it's like, well, I don't actually want you as my leader. So everyone's been going, we need a leader. It's like, no, I don't want to assign the person I can assign as leader because I want to get these other guys up that have different traits. So I've ended up with a builder leader this time. Rodriguez, the medic from my first playthrough, is now the leader of my camp.
Rodriguez.
Would you be able to, like, GIF it by copying the save because you got it on the PC?
Well, see, I don't know how that works because it all syncs, right? So I can put on the Xbox and load the game up, and it will know everything.
So it doesn't. You don't think it actually ever puts a save file on your computer's hard disk. You think
I
it
guess
always
it
puts it
must.
into the cloud.
Cloud save.
I guess it must, but it's cloud saving all the time as well. So I don't know how it would. And maybe it'll have one of those out of sync things when you actually do connect or something. It'll be like, hey, this save file looks different from the one I've got online.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to know how Microsoft deals with that, because, with Steam it has the whole pop-up where it's just like, one of these is... it's a very unhelpful pop-up in Steam where it doesn't really tell you any information, you just have to remember which one is the one you want to copy over.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen it on the Microsoft platform, because it's always just been so seamless. It's never had a conflict naturally. So I don't know. You might be right. I might be able to jip it and go back in and be like, okay, instead of this, I'm going to load to an earlier state and then go for one of the other traits. So I'll get a Warlord one and get that achievement. But then you really want to play those through to the end. Is the problem.
It wouldn't really save you that much time.
No,
because getting the leader isn't necessarily as long as the whole playthrough.
Yeah, because you've got to create a leader. You've then got to go kill all the plague hearts. Then the sort of legacy quests finale begins. So you've got to play for it. So you can only really do it in a full run, really. Unless you didn't... I suppose you could not
assign a
leader until you've done all the plague hearts. And then if you could take the save from that point and copy it and do things with it, then you could jip it. But the game goes out of its way to at least in the game to make sure that you can't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Honest answer, but it'll be a pain. So I probably will just get to the point where I just go uninstall. I need to play other Game Pass games.
You need to.
Well, yeah, I'm in my last month of Game Pass. Actually, that's probably not true. I think I've got a couple more. Yeah. Which is also why I'm playing Devil May Cry 4. Because the special edition is on Game Pass as well. So... I don't know. There was some talk about a new Devil May Cry game at E3 this year.
There was indeed.
And, Devil May Cry's always had a kind of rad-looking style to me. Like, it looks cool.
Style over some, maybe. Somewhat
maybe, yeah. So I've been... the only other... Up till this point, the only Devil May Cry game I've played in the main series was the first... on PS2, and not for all that much time. I didn't really... I could see where it was coming from, but I came to it a little late, I suppose. It was sort of somewhat late in the PS2 life cycle that I finally picked it up, or borrowed it, more to the point, and played a bit of it, but I don't know, something didn't click with me then. Fast forward, and we're in the era of DMC, and Bayonetta, more importantly, and that games that have really, really have clicked with me. I think games that I've loved. Bayonetta 2 was probably my favourite game of that year. DMC pretty much occupies the same space to me. As a favourite game of whatever year that came out as well. But DMC doesn't count. It's not a mainline game. The fans of the regular Devil May Cry series have real problems with DMC. Ones that I'm not too aware of. Or, was not aware of really at the time because I didn't really understand it. So I'm coming at this at being described. Devil May Cry 4 is described as one of the good ones. Basically, just ignore Devil May Cry 2 is the advice. Skip that one. 3 is probably the best. 4 is good. Is the
consensus? Yeah,
the general feeling. So I'm coming into 4, and I don't really get it. If I'm honest, I don't get why the fans prefer this style of it, because it is different in noticeable ways. So straight off the bat, I do still dig the style. I do still it's over the top, it's crazy, it doesn't linger too long on lore or anything like that. I think this was the one where they introduced Nero as a character, and they just basically drop you straight in, and they're just like, here's stuff going on, he's kicking demons, he's going to church for some reason. It's implied that he's got a girlfriend called Kyrie, and Dante just, turns up and murders His Holiness. Note, that is all we know about that character at this point. His name is His Holiness. Just sort of murders him. Nero and him have a bit of a fight. That's your tutorial. And then you carry on from there. And it's... So I kind of dug that. It's quite a relatively long sequence, but it's like it actually just doesn't. It goes out of its way to just be stylish and be like, oh, look, here's a cool fight scene, and here's a whilst your girlfriend is singing opera that you're missing because you're having to fight these demons, and it's. I was kind of into it at this point. It's just like, all right, I can see it. It's got some of that over the top Bayonetta vibe going on here. I get it. And then you actually get to sort of control the thing, and it's weird. It's just odd.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I'll say.
It's got the same sort of what I would call the same sort of like combo system as a Bayonetta, and most of your attacks are on the Y button. So I'm playing Xbox, so it's I guess it would be triangle on PlayStation, but yeah. So you're pushing Y to do sword. You've got your guns on X, and you've got your weird demon hand on B. Sorry, I guess. You're losing your kicks from Bayonetta, I suppose, to have your demon hand, which is basically like your throw button, I suppose. Which all sounds fine at that level, but to do like more advanced moves, you have to lock on to enemies first of all, which you do by holding right bumper. And then most moves from there involve a combination of moving the stick and pressing another button at the same time. And that includes the dodge. So in order to dodge an enemy attack, you have to be holding right bumper, press A, and move the stick at the same time, which you're not doing. So if you're regular attacking, you're just pressing Y. And then if you suddenly realise, okay, there's an attack coming, I've got to press 3 things at once to dodge, which, given that both DMC and Bayonetta have taught me on how to do the one-button dodge, it just feels immediately wrong.
Yeah, fair.
And cumbersome and horrific. And just doesn't have a flow to it. It's also one of those games where it doesn't have... I mean, DMC, I think, had a little bit of this, where, Bayonetta has the dodge at any time thing. So no matter what you're doing, no matter what animation you're stuck in, pretty much, you can always dodge out of it.
Mm.
You cannot do that here. If you're in an animation, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
Which is a different strategy, fine. But I think some of those animations you get stuck in are often quite long and sometimes completely unnecessary. So, for instance, my biggest problem is if you're walking around with your guns out and you're firing for a while, there's an odd pause after stopping to fire your gun when he's just sort of standing there, still walking slowly and stylishly with his gun pointed before he returns to his normal stance.
Oh, okay.
And you can't really do a lot while he's in that transition. So you have to stop shooting quite early if you then want to perform another action to dodge an attack or something like that, which, I don't know, it just feels cumbersome. That's not to say you can't have some cool moments, right? So the enemy designs are... I would describe, and this goes for most of the game's combat systems, actually. I would describe most of the enemies as frustrating the first time you encounter them, but they all have a trick. So there's always a trick to, like, some you'll need to use, like, your guns to take down first.
Right.
And then they turn into a more vulnerable state that you can then unleash normal attacks on. Others are, if you try to dodge this guy, it's not gonna work. So actually your best tactic is to use the sort of, what they call the Devil Bringer, which is a skill you get early on where your hand juts out and you grab them, which for some is like a long-range bring towards you.
Right. Which
I think was in DMC. But in some enemies, they don't come towards you, you go to them. So you can use that as a form of like dodge as well, because you can pull yourself to them and go over their heads to get behind them, and then you can attack from behind and things like that. So that's the trick with those enemies. So I kind of appreciate the puzzle element of figuring that out. But the problem is that when you first encounter enemies, like the encounter isn't necessarily easy enough or obvious enough to give you time on how to do that. And this extends throughout the entire game. Not just every enemy you encounter, but every boss you encounter. There's a trick that you probably need to exploit to get it. And the puzzle of figuring it out is sometimes not all that obvious. Actually, frequently not all that obvious. And I don't necessarily find the process of learning that all that fun. When you figure it out, you get that moment of like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and then you can have some real badass fights.
But it's not good at getting you to that point.
No, and yeah, I think I think only like out of the 4 or 5 bosses I've faced so far, half of them have felt bad, like just really not fun at all until you've figured out the tricks. And so I'm having a bit of a sort of love-hate with it, really. It's like when it clicks, it clicks. But I think it's spending most of its time not.
Mm.
And so I'm finding it, it's a little disappointing, really. I kind of like, for the game, everyone sort of like, is like, for the game series, people are so like ravenous about. And so like, this is my thing. This is my jam.
But were you expecting, given that you like DMC and the community were super into the traditional style, and you hadn't played the traditional style, were you thinking, if I go to 4, it's going to be even better? Or did you already know, well, I'm probably going to have preferred the new style?
I don't know. I think I was hoping for me to like this one more because of the fan appreciation.
But they are going to be fans who are like
into the old style of game, and it's like, and then they've all had these mechanics apparently, like the actual sort of some of this style of control is common to all of them. So I've heard, like, I went back and read some of the complaints against DMC, and a lot of them were complaining about the lack of the lock-on button in DMC, and I'm like, I'm thinking, okay, I can sort of see where they're coming from. The inability to focus on a certain enemy could be an issue when it decides to attack something else. However, I'm having the problem where getting the lock-on to the thing I want to lock onto in the first place is problematic anyway. So it doesn't solve the problem for me. If anything, it just makes it more frustrating because I can see it doing the wrong thing or seeing the thing that I'm not intending to do. It has special difficulty in, like, there's one boss fight I just did where there's a sort of flying wasp dude, and he's got like these bird swords that are flying around, and there's a good reason to attack the birds, so that so they turn into a sword when you knock them out, and you can throw them at the guy. And it's like, okay, that sounds fine, but actually, when locking onto those instead of onto the wasp thing, it seems to have a priority thing to be like, oh, you want to lock onto the big guy, right? And it's like, no, I want to lock onto this little dude flying above my head, and getting it to do that seemed real tricky. So the lock-on really wasn't helping me. If anything, it was hindering what I was trying to achieve. So I don't think that works. And it's, people say that the music is always a bit audacious, and it just like that's not doing it for me either. It's not as stand out as the Noisia soundtrack from DMC that is superb. It's not as quirky as Bayonetta's soundtrack. It just sort of feels like generic Japan noise.
Yeah. J-rock type.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit like if you've ever listened to any of like the Final Fantasy XIV soundtrack and heard some of the weird rocky stuff they do in that. It's probably less good than that.
It's not as bad as like Sonic the Hedgehog rock.
Or Crush 40. Crush 40 has a certain charm.
Rob's a Sonic fan. Don't take
Sorry,
it.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's aged badly. I think them still using Crush 40 in Team Sonic Racing was probably a mistake.
Well, it's probably a mistake for a racing game to have lyrical soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good idea.
I can't remember, it might have been Richard Jack that did the Sonic R soundtrack, in fairness, and he redeemed himself with the Sonic Racing Transform stuff and his work on Jet Set Radio, so there's room for all of us to improve. But yeah, I don't know. I think going back to Crush 40 for a modern Sonic game isn't a great idea. But it was fine for Sonic Adventure. Of the time, I guess. I liked it then. Not so sure about it now. Anyway, yeah.
Devil May Cry 4.
There's room for it to improve still, because I'm only playing one of the 5 different characters that are in the game.
Oh.
So so the story I'm playing at the moment is called Nero/Dante, and so I know that you take control of Dante at some point, and I've heard that his fighting style is significantly different. So I'm hoping that will keep some of the interest going. And I think I'm not sure if it was DLC or what, but there's also seems to be a Virgil story and a Lady/Trish storyline as well. So there seems to be a reasonable amount of content in this.
Cool.
I suppose the other weird thing is it like the styling and how it's structured hasn't changed since DMC1. Like, so everything's like a weird cut-up mission, but Mission 2 might be retracing the steps of Mission 1. And so when you see things in the levels, you have to assume, like, I don't know, in DMC, you could at least see something in the level and know, oh, okay, if I can see it in this level, it's got to be something I can deal with at some point during this level. Not true of this. It's like, because you could be returning to that environment in a later mission, or a later quote-unquote level. There could be things you can see that you just can't deal with, so you might end up wasting time trying to get to that thing when it's just impossible for you to do so. And I find that a bit irritating as well. It's like it's trying to be an open world thing, but then segregates itself with this odd mission structure. It's weird. It's a halfway house that doesn't necessarily work, and it's, I don't know. It feels very old school in it. Like when you go through a door, it has a load. Every door in the game has a weird loading pause. Like the screen will go to blue, or go what, and then just black out for a second. So now loading for like a second, and then you'll load into the next area. So it's not like a true open world. It's like, and these areas are really tiny. It's like, I don't think it would take much more for them to have had like slightly bigger zones or doors that perhaps go into each other without loading. It's like, it's not a very slick production. I mean, yes, we're looking at, it's a 2008 game at heart, but you know, I don't know. Even for 2008, I think I would have expected more.
Yeah, fair.
From its design and its structure. I've missed a big one. Camera work, absolutely appalling.
Oh no!
Like, it's probably the game's biggest problem with its combat. Actually, like, despite the controls are the worst, but the camera work is often like, I can't see what's going on, and there's something attacking me from off screen that I couldn't see coming. What am I supposed to do? It's like, it doesn't, like, the lock-on doesn't really rotate the camera for you, if as you might expect. It always likes to retain whatever direction it's currently facing. Yeah. So then you have to try and, in the middle of combat, try and right-stick the camera around, except it moves quite slowly, and I can't find an option to make that faster. It's like, yeah. Camera work, not good. It's fine in bosses. Most bosses. If there's like a single thing you have to focus on, it tends to be pretty good. But if there's loads of stuff in a room, you're in a bit of trouble. And I think DMC and Bayonetta both do way better jobs with that.
Seems like a critical element of one of those games.
Yeah, absolutely. It's falling short of my expectations. But I'm still playing it. I still kind of feel the draw. So there's that, I suppose. But I don't think that's really anything to go by my standards. I have the draw to just finish things.
Does this have achievements, though?
I've got like 2 in my playthrough so far. Like, it seems really cheap with the Achievos.
Yeah, I bet it has some ridiculous fucking achievements in that game.
Oh yeah, like S rank everything or something like, or no, was it? It's triple S rank in Devil May Cry. I haven't even looked. I've got like 1 for killing like a certain number of demons and another for getting a smoking combo like once. Smoking.
Turn into the mask.
Yeah.
Somebody stop me from playing this game.
It's a cry for Devil May Cry for help. Yeah, that's probably all that's worth talking about on my side. To be fair, just a bit of a rant on that one. Like, unless you can think of, I mean, Laser League seems dead. Seems a bit of a real shame. I've had nothing. I've kept on trying to play games on Xbox, but I think I get match made with AI sometimes almost entirely, so there'll be like no other human players in the game. It will just put me in an AI match, and it's not the same. The AI is not bad, but it will occasionally make really stupid mistakes, like just run into a laser like just head on, like it couldn't see it was there, and it's I think that's a real shame. If Laser League has died this early, I don't think it deserves it. I think that game is way better than the Xbox community has given it. Maybe it's done better on PC because of its, I don't know, it's where the Kickstarter and the beta and all that stuff happened. Well, I don't know if it was Kickstarter, but that's where all the early access stuff happened. So maybe that's where its fan base truly lies. But I hope that thing keeps going. It's a fine game. Of course. I'm missing another biggie. Of course I am. Octo expansion.
Yes, there's that.
I've not played nearly as much of that as I would like, because Devil May Cry kind of took over for some reason.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Even though you're the most enthusiastic about Splatoon ever.
Damn right I am. Octo's pretty good. Like I'll be honest. My expectations were tempered a little bit the more we learnt about it, just being perhaps more Splatoon single player stuff, because obviously I'm not as up on the single player as perhaps Zach has been, having gone through it with every bloody combination of weapons that you possibly could. You know, you've 100%ed that as much as you possibly can, really.
Yeah.
I have not.
Not that that's difficult or anything.
No, it just takes time. But this ratchets up those challenges significantly. Like the difficulty of these things is way higher than what I'd say was in the normal single player stuff, but also a lot more inventive. Like they go out of their way to make ridiculous new mechanics and just play with the formula of what's possible with their with what they've already built effectively. Like some of the stuff is really confusing. Like I don't know, there's some stages where you have to push a physicsy 8-ball around using your ink to get it to the right place to do things, and it's like those are probably some of the less good stuff. But then you get more cool things where it's like, oh, you play the entire level in the baller the whole time, and you're basically playing a game of Marble Madness where you're the marble. And it's like, oh, that's actually kind of fun. And tricky in different ways, or you'll get time challenges, or you'll get limited ink challenges. Or it's like figure out a way to get to the end of this stage without burning your ink supply, because you won't get it back. And they're actually really interesting. It's like you hear that one about limited ink, and you think, oh, this is going to be a ball ache, and it's like, no, it actually kind of succeeds on the puzzly part. It's pretty good. I don't think it's gone all out as stylish as the trailer, which is a bit of a shame, because that trailer's awesome.
Kind of what we suspected.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that music in the trailer is actually endgame stuff.
You basically that there's going to be another concert as the last boss.
I mean, there's potential for it. There's definitely potential.
It does seem suspicious, because from the little tiny bit that I've seen about it, where it's just like, these look suspiciously like they reused the same bosses again, only not quite exactly.
Yeah, there are some. I haven't played one of those yet, but I think I've got like a remixed version of the Bread King or whatever to do.
Yeah, there's.
But yeah, they changed the rules. Like one of them, I think, is you play in the baller the entire time against the samurai guy, from what I've seen. But I think there's no ring edge, so you're more likely to die from ring out. Or something like that. It's like, just mixing things up a bit, and it's like that's probably that might be described as maybe the cheapest elements, but I've not played those yet, so maybe there's more to them.
But that does definitely tend to suggest that there might be a concert at the end.
Yeah, another DJ Octavio set. Well, this whole thing is supposed to have happened in the aftermath of one of the DJ sets. It's not clear which.
Okay, good.
I assume after the second one. And, both you and you as the Octarian and Octoling, sorry, and Captain Cuttlefish don't really know what's going on. You find yourself and it is basically a test facility for some sort of Octo research of some kind, and that no one's ever completed it, supposedly. So you've got people that have been there for like hundreds of years just hanging out on the train. It's got a cool style, but needs more funk, needs more music edge. But yeah, seems cool at this point. More to come. Thumbs up. That'll do me.
Thumbs up.
Octo expansion for Splatoon 2. Fun times. More to come. Zeg, what have you been playing?
Well, my Switch has turned into the mobile games platform for me, because I don't actually have a mobile phone that can play real games.
They're not real games, top tip.
Well, that too. Except, I guess the two that are on Switch are slightly more like real games than most mobile games that I've seen in the past, I guess. I guess it's been a while. really the only mobile game that I ever played was Jetpack Joyride, which is just like, yeah, I guess that is the most mobile game.
But that might be the pinnacle of mobile
Yeah, exactly. It's like it peaked at that point, and from then on, it's never succeeded again.
Other than Bejeweled Blitz.
I don't know if that really counts.
I like Bejeweled Blitz a lot.
Peggle was okay on mobile.
I guess.
But you can play that anywhere.
Yeah.
Monument Valley. I don't know. Yeah, mobile games.
But yeah, I've been playing Pokemon Quest, which
Go.
initially wasn't like... Initially, you didn't know that it was a mobile game because they didn't really announce that it was going to be, even though it really obviously was a mobile game. Because as soon as you looked at it and saw how it operated, in fact, and like the fact that it basically wants you to use the touchscreen to play it, it's like, well, this is clearly a mobile game. They just haven't announced that it is yet, and then shortly afterwards they did.
Yeah, apparently that's now out on Android and iOS
already from Nintendo.
So yeah, it's basically like a simplified version of Mystery Dungeon, essentially. You have a little team of Pokemon out of the original 150 put 3 together and send them out to do things, and they each have like 2 different attacks they can have, and they have stats, and you equip them with stat boosts and level up and evolve and all the usual Pokemon things. But yeah, it's basically like Mystery Dungeon, apart from simplified, and you can turn it on to fully auto mode if you're just grinding, which is kind of what happened, because obviously it's free to play. So, they have to have timers and energy and all the usual free-to-play stuff. So you can only run like 5 missions before your energy runs out, and that replenishes every half hour. So if you happen to have been playing for half an hour, you can get 1 extra one, or you can just wait to turn it off and go away for 2 hours, and then you'll be good. Standard mobile procedure.
Yeah.
Similar way to like Pokemon Picross.
Sure. The energy meter.
Yeah, the energy meter. But the thing that has become slightly more like this is where the real mobile game kicks in, is like I've got to what I call sort of the middle of the game, judging by how many levels there are, and it's just turned into like a hella grind now. Like my team isn't high enough level to do the next boss, but I'm not getting very many experience from replaying the levels that I can do, and there's no real way around that. I just have to grind through levels until I get high enough level team to take on the boss, and then that'll let me through that blockade. But it's got a lot slower in terms of progress, so I'm just doing a lot of grinding. It's like, oh yeah, this is where you go to the store and buy things to make this quicker.
So is that what the payment model is then? So like, what would you be buying to solve that problem?
Well, there's 2 different. I guess there's 2 different things. There's one. There's the same as Pokemon Picross. There's the basically buy the game option,
which I'm all for games that just have that straight up in there.
Yeah,
because that's like if you're really into a game and you really want to do that, it's like that is much better than having to deal with the free to play nonsense.
Except when it's like inevitably too high a price, as Pokemon Picross was, for example.
Yeah, was it like 30 quid or something? It's like, I'm not sure Picross is worth 30 quid to me.
No, but then it's not exactly buy the game in this case, because it gives you get like decorations for your home base that give you basically buffs to various things, like drop rates of items and how much experience you get per mission and all that kind of stuff. And buying this one big pack gives you basically all of those decorations, except it's a full set of decorations, but there's also the set of decorations you can get from the store using the tickets, which you get like on a per day basis. It's another counter.
Oh, so it's like a separate.
It's like a separate set of the same buffs. So you're basically getting even more if you actually buy this pack rather than just the ones you can grind out.
Oh, interesting. So it's got some buy-only stuff for it. Buy-only buffs, in fact.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's slightly weird.
Yeah, that sounds like they're basically expecting you to buy it. I wonder if you'll get to a point where you're just not powerful enough to actually progress because you haven't got those buffs.
Well, I don't know, because the buffs don't necessarily make you more powerful in like combat terms. They're all just like more stuff more quickly rather than the actual power of the Pokemon themselves.
Is this what the free to if you're ever trying to make anyone buy anything from free to play, just like more stuff more quickly?
It's the catchphrase. But yeah, it seems like, I mean, it didn't necessarily get grindy really quickly because I got to this mid-game point where I basically you suddenly can do 3 different levels at once, and so you're leveling up. You can level up 3 different teams because they require different elements or whatever. Like one's rock and one's electric, so you're basically making 3 teams so you can level them up independently. But in all of those cases, it looks like I'm not going to be able to do the boss of any of those 3 without grinding each of those teams. So it's actually going to be a lot more grinding, but I guess it's slightly less grindy because you can do different teams, maybe. Except not really, because you're not really doing anything particularly different at any point. It's still the same smack 3 Pokemon in a team, and then just if you've got it set up right, just hit the auto button and then just don't touch it because you can just let it do it itself, which is kind of nice, I guess, when you're just doing grinding. You don't even have to worry about it. You can just occasionally tell them to start a new mission and then just walk away for 5 minutes and they can then start the next one.
Yeah. I suppose you've got to the point where your Pokemon are good enough that they can just walk over anything that they'll come across.
But obviously that's not getting you much experience, of course, because I'm having to do this level that I'd rather be doing a hard one, but I'm not high enough level to do the hard one.
So there's too much of a jump.
Yeah. It seems intentional, and also up to this point, all the other levels, when you complete the boss, you get an item, you get a decoration that gives you more experience up to a certain level. So, the first zone, you get any Pokemon up to level 10 levels faster, and then the second zone, any Pokemon up to level 20 levels faster. And the last statue I got was any Pokemon up to level 40 level up faster. But judging by my power levels, this next boss that I'm trying to do is more like a level 50. So I've got this 10 level gap where I'm no longer getting the XP buff,
right?
And I'm just having to grind through it.
Eek. Yeah, that does sound like a paywall.
Yeah,
if ever there was one.
So that's kind of annoying, but
it's a little less. It's a little more blatant, I suppose, than the Picross. Well, maybe blatant's the wrong word, but it feels a little sneakier than,
it's a little
than the
more
Picross
abrupt.
one. Yeah, the Picross one you could, it tailed off, didn't it? Things got harder and harder to progress based on.
Yeah, whereas this one, it was pretty much all the missions up to this point have just been easy, and you didn't really have to grind at all. And then suddenly there's this abrupt change to it. Now you're just getting one team and grinding them hard. So yeah, there's that.
Grind your team.
And then the other thing...
Grind them hard.
The other mobile game I played on the Switch was Fallout Shelter, because that came out on Switch.
Yeah, so...
And on the plus side of that game, it actually has... Because obviously it wasn't just even designed for mobiles when it first came out, it actually has a decent controller control method.
Oh, does it?
Rather than Pokemon Quest, which doesn't.
So you can play it docked, no problem.
Yes, you can actually just play it with the regular controller, not with the touchscreen.
Cool.
Which is nice.
I suppose that's because they did the PS4 version not that long ago, so they could.
Well, they did. I think when it first came out, it was on one of the consoles.
Oh, was it
at launch? I think, very soon after the.
Yeah, I thought the console version came. I didn't think it was soon. I thought it came a reasonable amount of time after, but maybe half a year or something like that.
I think it was fairly soon. But yeah, it actually has a consoleized interface, so there are occasionally things where it's that doesn't quite work as easily as I would like. When you want to move a dude from one room to another, it's you move the cursor to the room, you hit A, and then you're selecting the people in the room, and then you select the person you want to move, and then you hold down A to actually pick them up, and then you move the cursor to where you want them to go. That's obviously, you'd be doing that by just pushing and dragging on a touchscreen.
Yeah.
It's not quite as effective with the controller, but it at least works.
Is it one of those things that could have solved by just having a second button to be pick up?
Yeah, maybe. They do use pretty much all of the buttons at some point, which is good, I guess. In fact, they do something that is actually fairly rare on the Switch. They use all of the buttons on both the regular buttons and on the C buttons, or the buttons on the other side. They use some of those. I guess they don't use all of them, but they do use some of them. It's they actually found a reason to use those buttons. Mainly just to activate certain menu options, I guess, which you'd otherwise just be tapping on, presumably on a touchscreen, because it's these big icons which just have a little button icon next to them now to tell you what button to push. But yeah, Fallout Shelter. You just build a vault and have people in it. It's actually slightly more complicated than I thought it was, which is nice because
it's got the whole send people on missions mechanic as well.
It's actually got kind of an actual game of sort of almost.
Is there like an end goal?
It's sort of not really known at this point. Like you can see these missions, and they're missions that like chain into other missions. Like they have like 1 out of 7 or whatever for this mission chain. So it's like I don't know if one of these counts as sort of the overall story of Fallout Shelter or something, like the main story, or whether it will just be a series of quest chains that just give you some fancy reward at the end, and that's that. Don't know if there's going to be some actual end. Presumably not, because you just want to play this forever at some point, and you can only build the vault so far. You can only have so many people in it. So there's at some point you'll max out everything you can do, I guess. Probably won't actually have an end to a story or anything. But yeah, you send people out, you form teams and do missions, and sometimes it's not extremely clear on what you want to have, like stat-wise, because it uses the Fallout stat system special. And if you've played a Fallout game, some of those you kind of know, where it's like, well, strength is for melee and perception is for guns.
Sure.
Agility, but except in this case, it's not exactly that, because agility is almost the most important stat, because for some reason agility affects how fast you fire. Affects how fast, basically affects how fast your animation cycles.
Oh, interesting.
So people with higher agility get to fire more often.
Does it mean they punch more often as well?
Yeah, because it's just the attack animation.
Yeah.
So it's just like agility becomes.
That sounds like a straight up to every improve every aspect of yourself.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that one specifically does appear on the loading screen tips. It specifically says agility increases how much you attack, but it doesn't really tell you about any of the other special stats, apart from obviously each of the individual rooms of the vault has a stat associated with it, and if you have a higher stat, it just makes the person work better in that room.
Right. So
that's like the general use, but agility seems to be the only one that really has that explicit. This is better for this one specific reason. But then there's another tooltip which just says each of the special stats has a different effect in the wasteland when you send your dwellers out of the vault. And it's like, yeah, but you've never told us what any of those effects are. They're just mysterious effects.
So even once they've been out on a mission, I assume you don't watch the missions.
No. Well, the missions that you control, like the quests, it goes into like a side view of a building, and you tell them to go into the different rooms, and you tell them to target different enemies and trigger criticals and heal or whatever, that kind of thing. But when you send someone just out into the wasteland to explore, you basically get like a text log that tells you what they were doing, like very generic and repetitive.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just like, I saw a rad roach, I fucking killed it, and I got some XP, and that's kind of,
If it was in that kind of language, that would be kind of better.
Yeah, it's close, but not quite. but like that text log, occasionally you start to sense that maybe there is a stat effect. Like I've seen some of the text in that log where I've seen different outcomes. Like there's one where it's like, I found a building that looks like it's got a bunch of supplies in, but it's also full of booby traps. And then one time it was like, this trap nearly killed me, so I had to leave. And then the other time it was like, I avoided the traps and got the stuff. And it's like, okay, so that's clearly based on one of the stats, but who knows which one?
Or at least the roll was influenced by a stat.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you played Fallout, you can start making guesses about which one of those special stats it would be. The trouble is, of course, that one of the stats is luck. And that pretty much could be anything.
Yeah, true. In a game like that, we're clearly doing dice rolls behind the scenes.
But yeah, so, it's a reasonably complicated game. The main problem that I have with it is, I mean, in the same way Pokemon Quest has its, abrupt grind wall, this one doesn't so much have an abrupt grind wall. It's actually quite lenient about, stuff happening while you're not playing the game, I guess. Timers just continue to tick down in general.
Oh, cool. So, they're real time
Yeah, real-time timers. But, the gap between the different timers is, quite severe. Like when you're in the game, the individual rooms that generate resources cycle on like a 1 to 2 minute cycle. But that's not really like important because the resources are only consumed while you're in the game. So really the rooms counting down over a minute or whatever is just something that you're doing while you're there. It's not really relevant in any way apart from to make sure that you are producing enough resources compared to the size of everything you've built or whatever, the number of people versus your food supply. That's just to make sure that's just like a check to make sure that that's correct. And then like from there you move up to like the hour-long timers like crafting weapons and traveling to quest locations. And those are like, I mean, an hour is kind of too short for a kind of like mobile switch it off and go away for a while, I feel like it's
but that's what they want you to think at first, and then you'll be like addicted to. Oh, I've got an hour's up. I've got to come back.
Well, sure, but that's why it's like that's why I think that's too short. Where it's just like it doesn't. It's like it's not long enough to encourage you to spend the premium currency to skip it.
I suppose, yeah.
But it's not. So it's like not long enough to be not annoying, and you can't wait for an hour to pass in the game because you're still then having to manage all those other, like, the minute timers going by. And actually, being in the game is almost a disadvantage because, like, disasters can happen. Like, raiders can attack your vault or whatever. And providing you're, you know, sufficiently buffered against that kind of thing, it's not a problem. It's just a thing you have to deal with. But if you don't want to deal with it, you just turn the game off and come back in an hour or whatever. And then, of course, it jumps up to, like, the much longer timers where it's, like, 6 hours or 24 hours or whatever. And it's like, those are more like it, where it's just like, yeah, you can just leave the game alone for the rest of the day and then come back and finish it off in the evening or whatever. Those make more sense.
So I think back to, like, when I first started messing around with mobile games properly, like, on my iPad. And one of the first things I mucked around with was Tiny Tower.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is almost entirely just clicking on things, waiting for a real-time timer, coming back into the game, and then clicking on those same things again.
Yeah.
With premium currency to speed things up. But that was all that game was. There was no, like, actual game behind it, no. Strangely addictive, though. I played that for far too long. But yeah, I just think about, like, because that had a similar ramp up. Like, the early level stuff would be like finishing minutes, but then if you wanted to actually build higher quality stuff or hold more stock, I think was the trick for a lot of them, and then wait for that to all sell off. Like the replenishing timers would get like exponentially longer, like so it'd be like 1 minute. Oh, the next one's going to be 2 minutes.
Yeah,
next one's going to be 10 minutes, and then you're in that hour zone for quite some time, and then all of a sudden you get a few that are like, oh, this is going to take 12 hours, and you're like, whoa, okay, this is the paywall. This is where this kicks in.
I don't know if it is though. I feel like the like 1 hour area, I feel like is the awkward area. Like, if you're within...
I guess most people in our position aren't going to be able to perhaps look at a mobile device to handle your stuff every hour.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think those are like kind of more awkward. Because it's the same... it's the same kind of problem that I would compare to like how it used to be in EVE training skills before they introduced the skill queue.
Oh, yeah.
Because the early levels of skills where they're like 20 minutes or an hour and a half, it's like... But what if I want to go to bed?
Yeah.
Because then before the skill queue, that basically meant you weren't training anything overnight, which was a waste of your time.
Yeah, it's a waste of your subscription money.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like that same situation with these kind of hour-long timers in these kind of games. Once it gets to 6 or 12 hours, it's like, yeah, that's fine. I can just come back tomorrow or whatever. But that hour area is kind of awkward. Too long to stay in the game, not long enough to stay away from the game.
Have you played mentioning EVE? Have you gone back to that at all?
Not really, since it went free to play.
Okay.
I mean, I technically could at any time, because even when my account's not active, I can still go back.
I mean, I was about to say, do you need given that it's now gone free to play, how does that affect your position as a previously paying customer?
Well, it doesn't really, because when you're not paying, your account just becomes like a free to play account. Like it just restricts what access you have to ships.
I see. So you still have
all your stuff.
Yeah, but you won't be able to fly so many things.
Yeah, but I won't be able to use all my equipment or anything.
Does it like handicap your skills? Like, do you keep all the skills you have?
Yeah, you still have them. You just can't use them.
Oh, I see. So yeah, it will like impose a temporary cap.
Yeah, basically.
Well, that's interesting. It's an interesting way of doing it.
Because that mean like if I log into my Eve account, I can basically make a ship that's specifically for the free to play skill level using all my stuff. I can just assemble a ship out of all the lower level components I've still got and just make a ship that works at that level.
I suppose maybe that's a way of like seeing like if they introduce new mechanics, could you like fly around in that for a bit?
Yeah,
be like a low risk experiment.
Or I could log into one of my other accounts.
Well, yeah,
that are naturally lower level. Since I still have free technically.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I didn't really play any more Zelda. I did some more side quests, I guess. Still haven't got around to beating Ganon.
Okay.
Get around to that at some point.
No master mode completion yet.
No. Really should do that, just to have that finished. Say that I did it.
Are you going to do it?
But those goddamn Master Sword quests are still taunting me with my inability to complete them and the fact that I just...
That's hard enough in normal mode, I think, let alone Master Quest mode.
And it just... I keep thinking about it, but then I just think, that's like more than an hour commitment.
Oh, way more.
Yeah, way more. It's just like you have to say...
You have to like dedicate a week to get through that. Basically.
Well, yeah. And considering it's the classic situation of like, I could start playing this and like, it'll probably take like a couple of hours. But then if I screw up and fail, I've wasted a couple of hours and made no goddamn progress.
Yeah, I hate that.
That's how you look at it, though. You have to just keep doing it fresh every single day because you're probably not going to get through it.
No, I know. And like the longer you don't do it, the more your skills are going to degrade and you're going to become worse at it.
Yeah.
That feeling is... I don't think there's any bigger feel or more powerful feeling that pushes me off a game is that
then
I've
you have to
wasted
redo
time.
all of that again.
Yeah. If I've... it's weird. The old sort of arcadey me doesn't seem to exist so much anymore. It's like I kind of dread the idea of like playing. If I was to go back and play some retro games, like pre-save era, and have a go at getting through them, and getting quite far in and then dying. Ooh, hiccup. Okay, that's that dealt with.
Okay, good.
Sorry, intelligent input there. Getting to that point and then having to play the whole game again. So, like, I'm with you there. I don't like the sound of that because there's no payoff for the amount of time I'd be trying to do the thing.
Yeah.
I don't mind a hard challenge.
No.
But a hard, short challenge.
Yes.
Or something I can save at some point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, you do save every 15 levels. It's just it's so fucking hard to even get to the 15th, and it still takes like 2 hours.
I mean, I suppose you've got Switch standby.
Yeah, but you don't want to stop in the midst of that either. That's the same problem. Yeah, you don't want to. I mean, I ended up looking at a video on the internet on YouTube of like Master Mode No Damage Master Sword Trials.
Yeah,
so I was like, okay, what ridiculous tactics do they use? Maybe I could learn from this. But it was just like, well, I still haven't actually tested this, but the first thing I noticed is like. They have a might buff, and I don't remember, but isn't it meant to wipe your buffs when you go in that?
I thought so.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I don't know if it's a glitch or whether it doesn't wipe buffs, and you could potentially.
But they don't last long anyway, do they?
Well, but the thing is, they also have like a 30-minute wipe buff, which I think it is possible to get legitimately by fairy blood moon critical hit combo or whatever.
Right.
I think it is possible to make a buff like that legitimately. So, and then obviously because this is hardcore ridiculous run, it takes less than 30 minutes to get through the whole 15 floors.
Okay.
So
maybe they do. I think they do persist, right? If you eat it before you go in, I think they don't get wiped.
Maybe.
The effect doesn't get wiped. You lose everything, obviously.
Yeah, you lose all your stuff.
I think that's okay. But, I mean, are you really going to spend less than half an hour getting through?
I mean, this like ridiculous speed run. Technically, they had a half-hour buffer. They only used like 10 minutes of it.
Oh right. Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, maybe me with half an hour, I could get far enough, maybe, or at least like some percentage of the way through it. But the thing is, like the tactics they were using. Oh, and I guess there's another thing that I learned that is, I don't know if it's a glitch or whether it is like just something I never really realised in all of the playing of Zero I did. But when you sneak up behind someone and do the backstab, they like do the weird thing where like they stand up and then ragdoll.
Yeah.
But if you like walk round in front of them while they're in the ragdoll state, when they jump up, they automatically turn around, so you can just backstab them again.
Oh.
So you can just chain backstabs by walking behind them every time they turn around until they die.
Oh.
And I'm like, how is that? Is that just a glitch that I've never noticed? Is that easy to do? What's the window for it? Could I use that tactic to my advantage? So I didn't actually try that yet, but you know, that could be a very useful tactic to conserve weapon damage for a start.
Incredibly, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, so I learnt some things, but I haven't tried it again to implement any of them. And I saw, you know, what the last boss of that first 15 was, like the Hinox, and I'm like, oh well, it's a Hinox. That's actually quite easy.
That's actually quite okay. Yeah.
Especially because that was another thing that showed in that video that I'd kind of not realised and should have been real obvious, is that you just go stasis, shoot you in the eye, they fall over, you stab them, and then by the time they stood up, it's stasis time again. You stasis, then you shoot them in the eye, and then they fall over, and you just stun lock them. Success.
That stasis thing feels like something I should have played way more with.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, when I guess I felt like the time, way too short for it to be useful.
Yeah.
But maybe there are certain
cases where it can be useful. I did use it on a Lionel like recently, and it was like, oh, that's actually, you can actually get a fairly decent number of hits on them before it unstasises. And because of the way they like the hits land after the stasis ends, so they like jiggle for a few seconds as well. So you get a little bit of extra time.
Will it knock them out of attacks? Like, so if you meant stasis them like in the middle of an attack run?
I don't know if it would. It
like
might do because of the way they basically do a hit animation. Because obviously with regular enemies, they just ragdoll from the stasis force.
Right, yeah.
But not with Lionels. They just sort of jiggle in place. So maybe you can abruptly end an attack animation. Might be helpful against the Crusher ones.
Yeah, I wonder
if they're goddamn unavoidable Crusher attacks.
Yeah, I wonder if it, like, as I say, it could be used as a way of avoiding damage, getting a few hits, and then would you have enough time of escaping out of the way or something, or just get behind them whilst you're doing the attacks?
Yeah, because that was what I actually did with that line I did, Tom, was like I stasis them before it had seen me, so I ran up and stabbed it, and then something weird happened where it got stuck in a state where it couldn't see me, but because I was standing right next to it, it kept trying to turn towards me. But because I was standing right next to it, it was like pushing me, so it could never actually see me, and it just kept trying to turn around until it eventually gave up and just teleported away. I was like, oh, that was weird, but helpful. Killed like half of its health. Not sure if that's a viable tactic for all idols. You can somehow find that exact spot where they can't turn around to see you, even though they've unstasis.
That's funny. Something's poking at me really hard. It's got to be here somewhere.
Yeah. Very close by. With a sword.
Stab. So
that was Zelda. There was the patch for Rocket League that fixed my Merc problem.
Hey.
Yay, my van's back. Success.
All the stats.
With all the stats. Way more stats than I thought. I thought it only had 3,000 wins. It actually has more like 5,000 wins. So even better for me.
Yeah.
Didn't lose all my hard work in irrelevant stats. Irrelevant stat tracking. The best kind of stat tracking. I was briefly considering, because I got a car out of a crate using the decryptors from the summer event.
Ooh.
And I was briefly considering using that, except it's a stat tracking car that tracks juggles. And I'm just like, well, that's one of the worst stats you could possibly track, because whoever has a juggle that's actually a juggle or intentional.
I think I have had a couple, where you're doing that thing where you're sort of, not really a dribble per se, but like where I've been doing my skanky little jump.
Yeah,
and then it goes
just like bumping it along.
Oh, and then a little jump, and it gets over the next guy.
Yeah. Occasional legitimate ones, but much more likely that you're just going to get one by jamming the ball against the wall accidentally at some point.
Yep, that's how it mostly happens. Or the odd time where I've accidentally flipped at a ball while it's been next to a wall and it's gone doing, 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 doing.
Yeah. Plenty of... And, like, I mean, there's very few worse stats to track, apart from maybe, like, turtle goals.
Yeah, that'd be pretty rare.
Because even getting one of those intentionally is, like... I mean, technically, I guess... Well, I don't know if... Because a lot of the upside-down aerial goals that people do don't necessarily count as turtle goals.
No.
What makes it a turtle goal?
I think you're supposed to be on your back. Like, as if you're riding your shell, is the idea.
And the real way to do it is, like, be on your roof and boost, because the boost will affect you while you're upside down, so you can basically drive on your roof, except it's, like, really slidey, so it's impossible to aim. But you do occasionally get turtle goals just from being upside down in the motion of your flip while you hit a ball. So it's not very legitimate in terms of a stat.
Oh, you sometimes get reverse goals that way as well. Yeah. Because you like your butt will hit it like mid flip.
Yeah. So yeah, not exactly a helpful stat. But yeah, I was going to use that car, but it was tracking juggles, and I was just like, I'd rather it tracked wins. Wish this car wasn't stat tracking, because it's quite a cool car, relatively speaking. It was nice to get it out of a crate.
Yeah, quite rare those, or one of the rarer things you can get out of crates anyway.
Yeah.
Not quite as rare as cool goal explosions, but
no.
Still want the grunt birthday pie.
Is that a thing?
I mean, it's not called the grunt birthday pie, but it's the same noise.
All right.
It's the same.
Yay!
Yeah, there was that update that fixed the Merc, but that was just like a patch, not the next patch, which is kind of what I'm waiting for, where they're going to change the XP progression and also make it so that you get XP bonuses for not leaving a game. Which, if that helps at all, will be nice. Because the problem with playing casual Rocket League is one goal goes in and half the team quits.
Leaves, yeah. Such a bummer. I mean, what are they really gaining from that?
They're keeping their win percent high.
I guess.
Because that's what everyone cares about.
That's so weird.
I mean, like, even when it's in a like a ranked match, at least they don't leave. But like, you'll see people. It's the same thing where you get people who vote to forfeit after like 2 goals have gone in, but there's still 2.5 minutes to play. Yeah. It's just like, come on,
you're less than halfway through the match, guys. There's still room to make up.
What, they want to concede so that they can get to the next one?
Yeah. They're just like, this is totally unrecoverable. These teammates are clearly shit because they've just let these 2 goals in, and so I just want to leave. It's
I hate that more when you're playing solo and and one of your teammates goes, "I'll vote forfeit."
Yeah, well.
And it's like, well, I'm clearly not voting for it now, you son of a bitch.
Well, I do that when 2 of my team vote for it. I'm just like, no, screw you guys. And the best thing about it is nowadays, because they've changed how the vote forfeit system works, once they've already voted for forfeit, they can't initiate another vote until you do.
Not. Interesting.
So basically, you have a veto at that point. You just be like, I'm not going to vote forfeit now, and I'm also not going to vote forfeit for the rest of this game. So you either stay and be a bitch about it, or quit and take a temporary ban.
I like that power.
Yes. And, you know, sometimes if they actually decide to continue playing, it's not actually that difficult to come back from 2 goals down, surprisingly. Stop being whiny babies.
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen. I don't think... We've never forfeited any game that we've played on ranked, have we?
Well, no, but that's also a matter of just like, we just kind of just want the practice.
Yeah. When it goes bad, it's just like, all right, we're going for the pride gold now, guys.
Yes, just see if we can learn anything.
Even if the other team do start, like, especially when the other team starts saying forfeit, please.
Yeah, well, that's automatically you're never going to forfeit.
Yeah, hell no. You're spending all of the minutes and all the extra time you're wasting by scoring goals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen that happen in games where people have stopped playing, where, like, people who don't forfeit and don't quit, but then they stop playing. I've just seen cases where, like, the other team just keeps scoring, and it's just like, okay, we're, like, more than 5 goals ahead now. You really need to stop scoring, because every time you score, it's just adding, like, an extra 20 seconds to this game through the whole scoring sequence, and the replay, and people not pushing A to skip the replay and all this stuff.
We could be here a lot longer than we need to be.
And I've also kind of seen what I suspect is people trying to use that to force the winning team to quit, where they're just like, I'm just going to stay in this game for the whole time period, even though I'm the only one left on this team because everyone else quit, and there's like 5 minutes left. I'm just going to stay here just to try and annoy you guys.
I sometimes admire it when like you come across someone who has been left on their own, but they obviously don't want that quit penalty.
Well, I mean, at least when you're like the second or last person to quit, you don't get as much of a penalty.
Sure.
They changed that to make it so that after one person quits, you can quit with significantly less penalty. I don't know if it's no penalty or just significantly less.
Hmm.
You still take the loss or whatever, of course.
Sure. Yeah, you still get the odd
penalty.
guy who's been left on his own by knobs.
Yep.
And he's just like, so often, I don't know, at least when we're playing, like we start like cocking around a bit and at least make it like...
So long as you're like more than 3 goals ahead, then you just stop and just
start making it fun for everyone. Like I'll start going into reverse mode where it's like I have to play the entire match driving in reverse. It's pretty tricky as it turns out.
Yes, it is a bit.
No boost in reverse.
And then I don't remember. I mean, there's been other things. I've played some more Surviving Mars, grinding through the last of those achievements. Still got 2 more to go. 2 more relatively easy ones, but I am pretty much done, which is nice. It's nice to have a full completed game like Rob wishes he would have.
Yeah, I know. I just want to. I play the games where it's hard to get over that. I just want that 50% mark in most games. like 50% achievement rating. That'll do me.
Yeah. And I even managed to end up going back to Factory Warrior because, Satisfactory advertised me for factories again. Whereas, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I was playing Factory Warrior, wasn't I? Go like that, get in there. And then, maybe I can finish this Factorio C Block run before Satisfactory comes out, maybe. Mm-hmm. So probably not, because C Block is an epically long game type.
Reclaimed sea.
Yes, pump everything out of the sea. Make everything out of the sea. As the saying goes, an intergalactic spaceship made of seawater. Because that's pretty much that's all that game mode is. Building an entire spaceship just pumping shit out of the water. So that's that. I think that's probably everything. Probably. Except probably not, because I've been in one of those moods again with Steam where it's just like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. I did remember one more thing. I very briefly went back into Rogue Legacy because they've been patching that.
Oh, really?
Right recently during the Steam sale.
Huh.
They've uploaded a beta patch for Rogue Legacy.
Okay.
I was like, okay.
What does it do?
It actually adds some more traits.
Oh, cool.
And it makes it so when you get to the New Game Plus and there's the hard mode versions of the bosses, which were fucking bloody
impossible.
difficult.
Yeah.
They've made it so now if you have money, you can donate money at the boss store to upgrade the character that fights that boss because it's a specific character. So you can basically make those remix bosses slightly easier if you've got excess money to burn on that run.
Interesting.
Which is kind of nice because it means I might actually be able to get those achievements for beating those bosses at some point, because I definitely couldn't with the original difficulty of those.
No, I never even got close. They just owned me immediately.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll play that some more. I guess maybe. Once the patch is not a beta, I suppose, because they're still,
So is it opt-in?
I guess it is. I mean, I don't remember when I opted in, but I think I am opted in. Because it started downloading it. I was like, okay.
Weird.
I think probably I'd opted in at some point where there was a patch that was it was fixing an actual
a proper bug or something.
Well, not really a proper bug, but a system specific bug. One of those kind of, because FDL had one of those where the beta patch was fixing a very specific system specific almost bug with the whole game. Where it didn't really even function on certain systems unless you're in the beta patch. So that's why I'm eternally on the beta of FDL, even though it's way past actually being that now. It's probably just the same default branch. So yeah, tiny bit of Rogue Legacy. Don't know if I'll actually play a whole game of that again.
Mm-hmm.
and New Game Plus in order to get those bosses.
Yeah.
I still have my original save file, my level 369 or whatever.
Jeez.
Which was like New Game Plus 9 or something.
Extra G's.
Yeah.
I don't think I finished a plus run. I can't remember if I did or not. I think I was like, I finished it and it was just like, hooray!
But you didn't get to see the level 3 enemies. Oh, well, you probably got to see some of the level 3 enemies.
Yeah.
Or maybe not in the first run. Maybe you might only get level 2s.
I was quite happy with where I dropped that game, I think. As excellent as it was, I think like by that point, it's like, when you actually finish it, I think I was done with running the same areas and same enemies. Even if the enemies do get a little tougher.
Yeah.
I think I was done. That's not to say it's not an excellent game.
No.
It really is. Happy Salad Game of the Year, in fact.
Yeah. What do you play, Dan? Did you play any more Zelda?
A little bit. But the main thing I played was... after that E3 demo, I downloaded The Last of Us, whatever. I never played that before.
Right.
Oh yeah, cool.
So I've been playing a bit of that. It's amazing atmosphere and stuff. It looks a bit grimy compared to having just finished Uncharted 4.
Are you playing? You must be playing.
I'm playing remastered.
Right. So as far as I know, that's more just an up-res of the frame rate. As opposed to like actual quality, like asset quality.
Oh yeah, it's an up-res, and frame rate. So you actually get quite a few options. So I chose like 60 frames mode, but you can get I
imagine it's probably got if you turn it off 60 frames per second, probably go 4K instead.
Yeah,
right?
It's got 1080 60, and then it's got 4K like Super Sample 30. And you can change you can toggle the high quality shadows, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Which is kind of interesting. They are good. Anyway, it's just graphics, but basically you can't make it look like a PS4 game.
Sure.
But it's still, I mean, the animation stuff is still really top notch. It's just that I just played Uncharted 4, which is the same people doing it much later, so it's not as good as that. But yeah, I'm liking the world so far, and obviously it's got all that beautiful kind of overgrown post-apocalyptic kind of. I Am Legend type stuff going on.
That opening though.
Yeah, the opening was really good.
Possibly the best opening in video games.
Yeah, it was really dramatic, really, really good. So that's cool. Enjoying the story stuff so far. And also like just the dialogue and everything in those games is like just not embarrassing. It's like it's not just like a film, it's like a decent film or TV show, which is really nice. And as far as the gameplay goes, I like stealth anyway, so I'm quite liking it, but I'm not that into the scarcity stuff yet.
Okay.
I haven't quite gotten. It kind of breaks me out of the suspension of disbelief when like a shiv, which is basically a pointy stick, is like way more valuable than like bullets or anything like that. It seems to be the gold because you need them to stealth kill the main the worst zombies, not the worst, but the main ones, the clickers. Yeah. But you also need them to open locks.
Yeah,
and then
they don't always survive.
No,
and that's a somewhat random resource as well because of that. Like they don't always survive an encounter. Like you're not guaranteed to lose it. Is that right? I think that's right. When you shiv a clicker, it's.
Yeah, sometimes, but they do often break or whatever. It does seem a bit weird, the scarcity stuff. I've already, even in the first few encounters, been like, oh, okay, well, but I'm out of the thing I need. Even though I know I need to save this thing, I've used them in what I feel like legitimate ways, and I've still run out.
Yeah, I think I gave up on trying to shiv clickers.
Right.
I think I ended up coming up with different, or like just arrowing them or something, like...
Right, because I can't shoot straight. I can't shoot for shit, and so I'd rather stealth them or anything because it feels like a stealth game. But then it's like, yes, it's stealth, but that's the thing about other stealth games is like Metal Gear or whatever. Stealth is awesome, but it also doesn't usually use any kind of resources to do a stealth takedown. It's usually not only can if I skillfully take out everyone on this base using the stealth takedowns, then
I haven't burnt my ammo.
Exactly.
This is a perfect run.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels good. Whereas this is like, hang on, I need ammo to do this.
Yeah, there's always a trade-off in Last of Us.
Yeah,
always.
But yeah, it's cool. But I'm wondering if if I can actually deal with that kind of depressing atmosphere and tension long term, because it feels like it's going to be a long game of that.
I'm trying to think if there is much levity in it, and it's like, no.
Well, I don't need levity. I just need a bit of variety, maybe.
Oh, I mean,
but
there's some stuff mid to late third game where things do get mixed up a little bit in terms of setting.
Yeah,
and what goes on, and that stuff gets, and obviously the late game story. I won't spoil it. Or anything,
yeah, story stuff.
Well, the late game story gets real interesting.
Anyway, I will keep playing it, but if that doesn't work out, then I might have to just watch it on YouTube or something so that I'm ready for the next one. I don't know. To see if they switch it.
Well,
up.
I don't imagine the next one's going to be any lighter.
No, I just mean in terms of the story. I am into the story. I just need to get through the.
So one of those games that lets you difficulty level on the fly.
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So I could turn it down. I'm just playing it on regular, but that doesn't make it easy necessarily. But I quite like that. Like, if you get caught by the zombies or whatever, it's basically instant death. I quite like that. Because then it's like. Yeah, so
retread. Oh, in some of the more difficult encounters, that does actually become the most frustrating thing in the world. Like, actually, it's like, oh, something went bad. Oh, I've been eaten. Game right
Restart.
now. I've got to do this whole sequence again.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, in fairness, the problem with most stealth games anyway.
Yeah, that's true. It's not too slow to like restart.
No.
And it does. Also
it's just sometimes the length of sequences.
Yeah,
it becomes the problem.
That's the thing. Anyway, but it's cool. I shall probably carry on with that. I really want to play God of War though. I might just get hold of that and play that. That seems to like more.
I'm quite.
Yeah.
That might be the thing that when a good bundle deal for that turns up, that might push me over the edge into finally getting a PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's like I really like the idea of God of War and where it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't care less about any of the previous ones, really, even though they're in that same vein as the game type we were talking earlier. You know, it should be a DMC style game that I like. Never have.
Oh, the old ones, but this is totally different.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Which is why I'm back in.
Yeah.
It's like, I think if had they just made another God of War game like the previous ones, it'd have been like, nope. I remember when they did the one for PS4 or something, like when they first did, was it one of the remakes or something like that? Or maybe it was one of the later PS3 ones or something like that. And I just sort of, I remember when it first got shown and you could see like elephant minion brain in their opening demo. Like, and I'm just, immediately I was just like, nope, don't want none of this.
So yeah.
It's just, yeah. But yeah, where they've gone, suddenly this is all super interesting to me.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. Cool. I think that's it then.
Yeah, I was contemplating when we mentioned the difficulty thing. It's like I kind of wish Devil May Cry had one of those.
Well, I'm still annoyed about the difficulty in personally, and it has put me off in Into the Breach. I still wish there was a midway, something slightly easier than normal. And I mean, it's literally just the spawn rate. So if I could just adjust it slightly more fine grained, I'd be a lot happier.
The trouble is, there is no fine grain. It's the difference between 4 and 6, essentially. You've only got 5.
Well, that'll do. Give me 5 then.
You just want to try it to see how you fare.
Yeah. Because normal is just too depressing for me. I'm not good enough to not have people constantly dying. And easy is too easy.
In fairness, I don't know if... Well... I can't remember. Did I ever play FTL easy mode, or did I just always play normal? I think I always played normal because it was supposed to be the real game.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever tried easy.
I think I tried easy once, and that really was...
It is too easy.
Pretty easy.
It's the same thing, really. But FTL, I got good enough at normal. But it was a bit more kind of jippy.
Well, I mean,
because it was real timey.
It's kind of like we said, it was like in FTL, you kind of had to know the builds.
Yeah.
And you had to...
So that was
for the builds.
So FTL was one of those games that very much eventually fell into that hole we were talking about earlier. Like I've just done an hour-long run,
yes,
and got nowhere because there's no.
But it is a roguelike, right?
I know.
I suppose Into the Breach is too in a way, but I don't know. I can't accept it with Into the Breach for some reason.
And don't get me wrong, it kept me hooked for quite a while, even with that. But it just came a point where it felt like bashing my head against the wall until Zach showed me some stuff.
Mm.
And even then, that opened a different door in that I find FTL way more interesting to play with someone else than I do on my own now. So I haven't returned to it since we did those Happy Salad videos because that was way more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I should just play Into the Breach with you then, Zach, so you can tell me what to do.
Well, if I ever get round to uploading any of those damn videos, which I really should.
Well, your early ones, you were dying because you didn't know what you're doing.
But literally this third video, if it ever goes up, is the final mission the first time with the rusty holes where I did that. And then if I remember rightly, it transitions straight into the first run with the, Laser Squad.
Right.
What are they called? Steel Behemoths.
Mm.
And I'm like that run I won as well, I think. Not in that video, but in a second couple of videos. I really need to get round to uploading those. Probably should
have done it while we had a video content lull.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Yeah, there was a bit of a lull.
I think I need to
Sorry, guys.
come up with some kind of better method of running. I've said it before, my one problem with making these videos is not the video, it's the audio. If I had a better mic that took less effort for me to go back through and edit the whole audio track, that would make this whole process much quicker.
Well, when I eventually investigate improving our audio setup, you can have this one.
I'm not sure that's better than anything.
This super dodgy ass mic that barely works, but once it's working, sounds fine. Provided we sat nearer to it, like during normal recording, but
Although, really, in reality, the actual problem with my audio is me. It's less to do with the mic. It's more to do with just me talking to myself in a room.
And that is weird. I've thought about like running some rough cuts of like State of Decay or something like that, just to like. I've got an hour. No one's at home. I'll just record me bashing some zombies for a while. Why not?
Yeah,
content.
Exactly. That's what you always think.
But then I never actually do it because I'm just like, well, I'm not really going to be talking for most of this, am I? I'm just going to be like going through the motions.
The classic problem of commentating over videos by yourself is having to think of things to say continuously, so there's not just a whole shit ton of nothing.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, with Into the Breach, it's like, well, I could move over there.
You're talking over your whole process.
Yeah.
And that's actually what you want to do for that game. Yeah. You kind of have to describe the exact thought process of the plan.
That was one of the weird things State of Decay does. Like it says, like in one of its tooltips at one point, it was like, "Oh, you're heading out. Oh, make sure you've planned for what you're about to do." And I'm like, I'm not planning anything. I've just put a waypoint down and I'm going.
Well, like how much do you have to plan? It's just like I just need some guns, some ammo, some weapons, and then just walk into whatever zombies are there and kill them.
Barely even that. Some of the time, it's just like, how empty is my inventory? Is it empty? Yes. Okay, go.
Yes.
I can bring more
Scavenge
stuff
what
back.
you need.
Yeah.
And that was also, like, with the video situation, that was kind of why I ended up doing the Factorio videos with the big sped up bit in the middle. Because it's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to talk continuously over me playing Factorio.
Nope.
There's just long periods of me building things. It's like, what can I say? I'm just building a factory.
Yeah.
Starting to sing some sort of rendition of various game soundtracks. Or...
Yes, exactly. So
probably what mine devolves into.
It made more sense to have the sped up bit and then just like sum it up at the start and end. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's how it went.
I mean, that's like, people live stream their freaking coding.
Oh yeah.
It's a whole thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this and then this, and then there's a lot of them just going, just
all right,
staring.
I'm a bit stuck. I need to think about this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, what I'm really doing is I'm just going to mute my mic while I spend the next 4 hours Google searching in a window you can't see.
Yep.
I mean, the truth about coding is it's slightly embarrassing how a very senior, experienced engineer who's been doing it for 10 years spends most of the time staring at a red error message or
hello,
or typing it wrong or all of that, or googling.
This is my day. This
is every programmer's day. So it's just funny to watch how everyone has a plan, but most of it is why the fuck isn't that working?
It's scary to think I've been doing this for 12 years and I still don't feel like I'm that much better than what I was a couple years in.
No, it's just the process.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just like, what the fuck?
It's like, what is that message?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. Why on earth are you complaining about... Oh, my word.
Can become
I
stupid.
don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I've changed something and it seems to have fixed it. I have no idea why. Just don't touch it. Nobody touch it. It's good.
Yeah.
Ship it.
we need Git for Factorio, so that if you make a mistake, you can just reset to
Well,
that.
coincidentally, they've just in the last blog post about Factorio, they've been talking about like revamping the blueprint library, which is where you store blueprints that you can just stamp down.
Right, where you store your function library. Or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of discussion about how, like, basically people kind of want version control for the blueprint library because it's really easy to accidentally delete blueprints out of there. Because it's basically one button push and you just delete the whole thing. There's no way to recover it.
Oh, is it? Is it like a delete all button?
Well, not delete all, but like delete individual blueprints.
Right.
And there's no real, like, in order to get that back, you'd have to go to the actual place where that exists in the world and recreate the blueprint from the actual physical thing. So if it doesn't exist anywhere, you've just deleted the whole thing. It's like, can we have some kind of version control? Can we, like, not have or a confirmation dialogue or something? Be nice.
Can you have like a hide from list that like you can recover it later or something?
And also, like,
Never delete.
the whole fact of, like, how the blueprint library exists, like, on a like user level, not a game level. Like, each individual game has a game blueprint library, but then you can export them to, like, your global blueprint library that you can access in any game. So then you have a problem with, like, I've got this blueprint from 2 different games, but they're 2 slightly different versions of it because I modified it. And then which one of those do I put back into the main library?
That's a legit like version control problem, whatever you're doing though.
Yeah.
Standard.
So, you know, who knows what they're going to do with that. The trouble was that the blog post about it didn't actually mention any of this stuff. It was all the forum posts that people talking about it, where they came up. It's the classic developer blog post situation where, like, the developers laid out all their own plans and ideas, and then the community was like, do you know how this game actually works? Because this is how we actually play it.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Eve quite a lot with their patch notes, where it's just like, the developers change things, and it's like, when was the last time you actually went into the game and played it?
Yeah.
This is a bad idea.
That's why you need the or was the Council of Awesome in Eve?
Yes, the player council, whatever it was called.
Yeah, just stupid name, didn't it?
Yeah, I remember it. It's been a while
Yeah, never mind.
since I saw the player council.
Right. On that, forgetting what it was called, notes.
Yep.
It's like we had the
very
podcast.
traditional for our podcast.
It's Council of Stellar Management or something.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, okay, cool. It's time to end, and there will be more videos after the lull of videos.
At
Coming
least
up.
one more.
We've got a bit of Revolt, but the community made tracks coming up. So stay tuned on our YouTube channel for that, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another Saladcast.
We shall grab you at a date away from now.
That wasn't a very good one.
Catch you later.
Yeah, that wasn't a very good one.
No. It's not quite filthy enough, is it? What's another word for catch? Like, kidnap you later? I don't know.
Okay, kidnap you later, listeners.
Bye.
Bye.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.